intimacy coach, intimacy coordinator, lover of dark chocolate, great white sharks, and all things that go bump in the night. And I'm here with my co-host, Ernest.
Hey, I am Ernest, and I am dark chocolate. I am the proud co-host of The Shadow of Love. I am a professional bartender, a Southern cuisine chef, a lover of all things soul, a thick thigh enthusiast, and it's true. And the unofficial president of the Stevie Wonder fan club. And we're also here with Dawn.
My name's Dawn Hartman. I am the creator of the Intimacy Project. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's a project I started 17 years ago, which is very telling about my age, but it is an entire project dedicated to showing the intimate spaces that queer people exist in together as a way to combat homophobia. And I also am in the midst of creating the Intimacy Lounge, which is ever evolving. And I am a full-time photographer, Dawn Hartman Photography, and I'm a mama. And I am very passionate, and I love people, and I love intimacy, obviously. So I think I was a good choice for a guest speaker on love and intimacy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'll kick us off, and this is all, we don't do scripted anything, so you're getting us kind of raw.
Yeah, we don't do notes or anything
we
like
do,
that.
yeah.
It's like unplugged.
Yeah. Unplugged. For me, intimacy, like when I define intimacy, I'm thinking about like the intersection of vulnerability and truth, I would say, like where you're meeting people where they are. But I think oftentimes we kind of confuse intimacy with attraction. And I'm curious, Dawn, like what are your feelings on differentiating between intimacy and attraction? Because I think sometimes we can have intimate moments in like sex and in physical, physicality, thank you. But it doesn't mean that it's the same as intimacy, which to me is a totally different thing. Mm-hmm. You're getting down to a deeper layer.
Yeah, so I think that my work definitely explores this exact topic because I, of course, think that intimacy is far beyond just sexual, because I think you even have intimate experiences with your family, with friends, with strangers at a bus stop. But in my mind, when I think about intimacy, it's a moment shared with someone else where nothing else really exists outside of that moment. And so if somebody is able to captivate your attention in that way, that you are fully present and you feel fully seen in that moment, and that can happen with someone in an elevator, just as easily as it can happen with a partner. So I like to explore that. So for each of my intimacy project sessions, I interview the participants and ask them what they feel is intimate, because I want to know the great variation of things that come to mind for them that is out of the box. Of course, I have beautiful erotic images and a ton of affection and things like that, but I'm very partial to the people who think outside the box on that. So some of my favorite sessions that really convey all of the facets of intimacy that people don't think of. One of them was two men, and they were married and they lived together, and they felt that sharing bathroom space was a very intimate experience. So I have this shot of one of them showering and the other one is shaving. And I thought that was so beautiful because, of course, you don't feel comfortable enough with just anybody to be in a bathroom space. Another one was a couple that wanted to express what it feels like to experience grief and the intimate spaces that you end up in to comfort someone in grief. And I felt like that was such an important one to me because, of course, I love to express all of the happy sides of intimacy, but there are definitely some very painfully intimate moments that exist in life too, and I feel that those deserve representation.
Oh no! I'm like, y'all are cooking. I love this. I love it. I really do. Absolutely.
What would you say is the most intimate moment that you can recall that you've experienced?
Ooh.
I'll do mine.
Right.
Honestly, the most intimate moment for me was watching the birth of my son. Literally, like nothing. Well, I mean that was the most biggest one for me, because like being there, seeing like, oh, I did that. Well, I put 10 down on it, but like it was more like, being there to witness that in that moment with ex-wife, whatever, and like being the first person to hold them and like, oh, this is real. Like literally feeling my life change. Like I'm officially the co-star of my life now. Like nothing else matters except this person in my arms, right? That moment, and like how you were saying before, because like a lot of men, and myself, I'm very honest on the show, myself included, I have weird man definitions of intimacy. So like not always understanding like how, complex and how big the spectrum of intimacy is. You know what I mean? Like, so that and the death of my mother. Those two things I have to say were the most impactful things. As far as feeling, as far as, the gains and losses, like those two things, I have to say for me are the biggest ones. But I'll be honest with you, like, again, you've heard our show. I always tell people that men of my age are just a step above Unga Bunga. Like we're just above it. Men of my age, we're just above it. We're not as complex as this young crowd I see in front of me now. Like nowhere near, because we weren't allowed to be that way. Like I'm not allowed to be. We weren't trained that way. So, and it's unfortunate because like I'm basically trying to unlearn and relearn things about intimacy, like things about like partnership and trust and all those things. But my two biggest moments, definitely the birth of my son and the loss of my mother, and those two things. So we got to give yours now.
Okay. Oh. Well, so to piggyback off of what you were saying about basically male vulnerability, I definitely think that being present when men are crying is a very intimate space that very few people experience because men hide their feelings so much and so well. Maybe because I am a person who's experienced a lot of grief and trauma, when I think of intimacy, a lot of time I do think of the harder moments versus the happier ones when it comes to intimacy. But happy intimacy, I think, is also like, it is underrated how much you experience intimacy with your children or with your friends and all of that. I love sexual intimacy. I love romantic intimacy, but people have to reframe their thoughts on intimacy in order to enjoy other people, because I think that people put so much pressure on romantic relationships because they expect to get all of the needs met intellectually or intimacy-wise from their partner. But if they took more time to really consider the intimate moments with other people, they wouldn't feel so empty and they wouldn't put so much pressure on their partners. So I don't know if you have some thoughts on that, about intimate spaces that are not romantic.
With intimacy, I would say my daughter died 2 years ago, and it completely changed my life. She was 22 years old at the time. And she has a twin brother, and I have two younger children, and so ushering them through that. But her twin brother and I had, they were difficult teenagers, and we had a difficult relationship, and my daughter had issues with substance use and abuse for several years and was unhoused off and on. And part of that just was because of how our relationship developed through high school, and my daughter was living with me at the time when she passed away, and I'd had conversations with her about our relationship, and we were good, but him and I are still repairing some things, and we had this conversation in my car just recently, right? Because we're still working through all of this, and just having these moments where he can be like, you know what, I love you, but I'm angry about this still, you know, or I still want to talk through this, or there are times when like I don't know that I like you, and hearing that is hard as a parent. It's a very intimate thing, but I'm glad that I hopefully have created a safe enough space where he feels like he can have those conversations with me, because I know that that's something I can't do with my parents because they get extremely defensive. And it's just a generational thing, I think. And they don't want to have any of that self-reflection. So I think that grief and intimacy there's so much intimacy in grief. The people that I've met and encountered since my daughter passed away, when I talk about it, you know, everybody has a story, or they've been touched in some way. I was at my graduate school in Louisville, and I was volunteering as an alumni for their residency week, and I'm a dramatic writer. I do writing for television and stage and screen, and I'm in this workshop, and the head of my workshop is a fantastic television writer. He's worked on The Punisher. He was a producer on The Messiah. Like, he's done all these major shows, wealth of information. And we were sitting at the bar, and we were talking about, I'm writing a TV pilot about the experience of my daughter dying. And we were talking about this, and he started welling up with tears because he had lost someone unexpectedly 20 years ago. And he was like, I had to stop 2 or 3 times reading your script because I started crying, because it brought so much evocative up for me. And so I think, you know, grief is probably one of the most intimate. I think if you've ever been around anyone who is close to death, my best friend died when she was 39, and she died of breast cancer, and watching that progression, it's a very intimate thing to be with someone when they're in those kind of moments. So. But there is also a lot of joy, you know. I think joy can have better moments of intimacy sometimes than just physical intimacy can produce. And I think that we don't talk enough about the depth of how we can make ourselves happy. I also think people don't know how to make themselves happy for themselves. And that's a big thing. Like, self-fulfillment is something that people should really be pursuing, because you cannot look to somebody else to fulfill your needs. You know, you have to fulfill them on your own so you can be a complete person, and then meet them where you are, and they meet you where they are, and then together you can trade that knowledge back and forth. It shouldn't be like a puzzle piece. You all should be puzzles and should be sitting next to each other, complete to begin with. Because otherwise you're looking for things in people's emptiness that you might not find, or you might get disappointed. It creates expectations that people can't always fulfill. So.
I mean, with that being said, I mean, again, like we were talking earlier today, and about doing this event here, and I said, you know, Holly, and Holly knows everything about me. Like, she knows I'm afraid of clowns, and like, for real, like, way before Pennywise, I'm afraid of clowns and tight spaces. So like, my biggest fear, I've said this before, is like being on an elevator with like a bunch of clowns and my ex-wife. Like, I'm pulling the switch. But no, like, I think for me, I've really never looked at things like, you know, grief as intimacy. I've never looked at, and the problem with me is, because like we were saying, like I was trying to say earlier, like I was really nervous about doing this, and I'm usually never nervous. How we usually do our shows, like via Zoom or like in a room together, so like I can bare my soul to Holly, because she's the only one in the room, and then like when we put it out to stream or whatever, you can either just fast forward or turn it off, and like, I don't like what he's saying or whatever, like you get to choose it. But like in this space, like I'm stuck. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to actually share with people. But to be honest with you, I've never really had, how I was raised in a Pentecostal household. My father's was pastor. He actually died in May. I'm still unpacking that one. I've never was taught how to process things properly, or like literally label things in a certain kind of way. Like, I'm learning that now. I've been in therapy for 4.5 years straight. I'm literally learning now to how to like to identify things, right? To say like, oh, that hurts, or this is that, or to be able to really understand, because growing up with like old school dudes. Like I'm old school 2.0 or whatever. Like I'm the last of the dudes that know what Old Spice smells like for real. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna get that for like no one here is gonna get that for no dude's gonna get that for a gift here ever, right? But I did. So like with that being said, like I'm just like a generation off of that. So I'm from that generation where men don't cry. I've only seen my father cry twice when he was alive. I've only seen him cry twice. Once was over his sister and once was over his mother. Oh, I'm sorry, when my parents got divorced. So 3 times. Recalling being married to my mother. So 3 times in 70 years. Like he's just not a crier. So like in my family, we were like taught to like walk that off. You all right. Stop being stop being a bitch or whatever it is. Like, so like we were taught differently how to either contain it or process it alone or through something. You know what I mean? That's why I think a lot of kids from like Pentecostal preachers' kids, people who grew up in, like under the clergy, tend to have a lot of problems in relationships or tend to be secretive and hide things. And I'm like that. So it's very, very hard for me to, even though I was married for 16 and a half years, it's still hard for me to like intimate my feelings sometimes. It really is. And it's a daily struggle to actually be able to bear myself. So yeah, like I was saying, it's very hard. It's a struggle. And the thing is too, like what's the word? I have a duality or whatever it is. Like I'm a very social person. Amber version. Shut up. And shout out. See?
Introvert, extrovert, ambivert.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
See, people my age don't know words like that. We weren't allowed to use words like that in the house.
The only reason I know is psychology.
If I would walk out and said, Dad, I'm an ambivert, he would
Psychology.
smack me. Like, boy, don't take your ass outside. No, like, so again, like, those are words, like, we don't, that's the word for it, if that's the word for it, but, like, there's part of me because I work professionally in the world, and I'm a social butterfly, and you can see that part of me. But then there's the other part of me, like, that's like, I don't share that shit. Like, she knows my shit because that's my homegirl. But, like, I'm unable to share it. And it's also damaged my pursuits and relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, severely. So.
And I'm the opposite.
No, like, no, it's just, yeah, it's hard. So, like, to share and to actually identify things as different things as, like, intimate, that's new. Like, shit, that's new to me. And I've been in therapy for, like, I didn't know that, death was intimate or, those kind of things. Like, again, I'm a cool ass caveman. That's all it is. That's all I am, admittedly.
So, for both of you, what is the kind of physical intimacy that you prefer to explore? Like, what for you makes for a good physically intimate moment?
This one is kind of funny to me because I am also divorced in the divorced party over here. So I think that it has been interesting trying to navigate new spaces to even allow people to touch me. And I think that I, kind of talking or doubling back to intimate moments that people aren't thinking of, but I really love PG-13 relationships is what I call them, and I have several, some of my PG-13 people in here. But it's because I love all of the intimacy before you get to the sex. I do. I enjoy the captivating somebody, because there's some part of like at the point that you have sex and it is completed, you don't have their attention the same way. I mean, maybe you exhausted them and they're, on their way to sleep, and that's a satisfying thing too, but all of the anticipation is the part that is exhilarating to me. And the, with the definition I had given before of intimacy, of, to know that that person is so present with you in that moment and they're not thinking about anything other than you is an incredibly intimate experience. And I do really enjoy those spaces.
I like the pursuit. I really do. Like, I remember when we first started this a few years ago, keep it short, we first started this a few years ago, she was like, Holly was like, you should get on one of those dating apps to see what it's like, right? And I got on Plenty of Fish, which is a dirty ass phone. God damn. I mean, they got some mug shots. You're not even smiling. It turns inside. It's like that shit. It's like that shit. So I got on Plenty of Fish against my better judgment. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And I paid for like a premium package or whatever, like the whole, give me the whole shebang. And I was still listed in the Santa Barbara, Greater Los Angeles area. And what was my handle? Aaron Stone 327, right? And I put my picture up, did the whole thing, and I think the first day I got like 32 hits. Then like I got more hits. I'm like, I gotta take this picture down. This is getting aggressive. It was really aggressive, right? And like, I'm a little bit older, so I'm like, nah, I'm all good with this. Like, I can't see how, like, for younger people, it's cool. I mean, a lot of people my age use it too, but like, I'm a hunter-gatherer. But something happened in the moment that made me say, I will never use another dating app. So I'm going through my divorce, and like, they sent me like their concierge, whatever, like their AI, whatever their algorithm is. They sent me like, we found the perfect match for you, right? So I'm reading the profile, and I'm like, this verbiage sounds very familiar. This, just how the writing was for it, and I'm like, this sounds very, very familiar. And then it gets down to appearances or whatever, like descriptions, like I'm curvy, height. And here's where I got it. I'm 5'11" and 3/4. I was like, now keep in mind, my ex-wife is 5'11" and 3/4, right? So, and like actually she's 6'1". I'm like, bitch, you're 5'13". Stop playing. So I'm reading this and I get down to the end and I'm like, this is my ex-wife. This is my soon-to-be ex-wife.
Damn.
They matched me with my ex-wife, soon-to-be. I shit you not. So like I had to call, imagine actually getting in contact with someone from Plenty of Fish on the phone, right? Like that was like connecting like the little strings and shit to get to talk to somebody. So I actually got a hold of someone in customer service, and I was like, I'd like a refund, please, right? And they were like, why would you like a refund? I'm like, because you've matched me with my soon-to-be ex-wife. They're like, well, how do you know it's your ex-wife? I'm like, I bet you if I give you this personal information, you're going to give me a discount, or you're going to give me a refund. And they live here. You know why? Because that's my mailing address too, right? So ... So after that, no more online dating. I'm hitting the streets. Like I will hit the streets first. And plus, it's more fun that way because like meeting people, because like in the picture, like online or whatever, you're putting your best face forward. You're putting your best digital presence forward or whatever, right? So like, but up close, I can see and smell you crazy. Like if you're in the same room, like I immediately know, like I don't have to wait at the Cheesecake Factory for you eating that bread, hoping everything goes right. Like, no, I can see it right now. Like, crazy. You know what I'm saying? So like I actually like going out and meeting people face to face. Now granted the volume is different, I guess, but like it's fine. Like I like it that way.
Yeah, online dating is trash.
It's trash.
Just trash. Yeah, it's so hard. I would say, so I have been separated / divorced for 4 years. In 3.5 years of that, I took a total time out and I was celibate. And that was for me, a different kind of intimate experience because I really just took the time to learn about myself and what did I want and what was going to work for me. And rather than being in a position where I felt like maybe I would have to please someone else, sooner than I really wanted to, And so I've just recently started dating again, but you know, I like the PG-13 too, and people unfortunately don't seem to want that. And then I'm an intimacy coach, so people are really weird. Like when I was just in Louisville, I met this guy. I was just talking to him at the bar one night, and I happened to give him my card. We were chatting, and the next thing I know, he was like texting me about coming to his room, and I was like, no, I have an early morning. Next morning, he's like, why don't you come to my room now? And I was like, sorry, I'm already out of the hotel. You know, I'm good, you know. And he was like, well, why don't you just come watch? And I'm like, no, definitely good on that too. So, yeah, there just doesn't seem to be a space, I feel, where people have a lot of kind of respect for the process of relationships right now. I also think, and we talk about this all the time, I think that people have the expectations that people have sometimes, and this comes back to self-fulfillment. If you're self-fulfilled, I don't think you're going to expect the same things out of people, but people have expectations, and when they're not met immediately, because we are in this technological universe right now, you just feel like, oh, well, I can just replace that person and move on to the next. And the truth is that sometimes, like, it really takes time to develop and get to know people, and sometimes you have to give people grace, because we are all human and people fuck up, you know? Yeah. And I think that, you know, when we're able to extend that sometimes, and I'm not saying all the time, but, you know, it can open the door a little bit more. We just don't take the time, you know, and I think that that's unfortunate, you know. And that's weird for me to say, because I don't have the kind of time that I had in my 20s, right? When I probably should have been investing more time, but.
Ooh, so I feel like this leads me to when you were talking about intimacy and the truth portion of intimacy, you know, but I feel like people hide from the truth a lot. And I was watching a show recently, I don't know if anybody's ever watched Grown-ish, that is a spin-off of Black-ish, but what I loved about it is they are basically hitting on the fact that younger people are so used to texting and whatever that, like, they literally got into an argument and then they both, instead of hashing it out in person, they went back to their rooms and texted about it. But it's because they have more time to kind of rehearse what they want to say, and I feel like all of that takes away from the truth and the honesty of it, because when you don't get a chance to walk back what you say, I mean, I have said and heard some of the most honest, painful things in the midst of heated arguments in person, and even though they're hard to hear, I feel like those conversations are so important, because you really don't get an unfiltered version of people's thoughts. You know, when you text, you have time to rethink it or delete it and start again, but you don't have that with regular conversation. So when I was saying, I think I'm the opposite of you when you were talking about, like, being reserved or not sharing a lot. You know, I've definitely been criticized for oversharing, but I defend my right to overshare, because I think that I talk about things that other people steer away from, that they feel too uncomfortable or too vulnerable to speak about. And the reason why I don't feel self-conscious about that anymore is because I've actually amassed a community of people who appreciate that about me, and people who are tired of not having honesty and not being able to ask a straightforward question, and they don't want rehearsed answers, you know. So I think sometimes you have to find your people, and there's such intimacy in that, you know, the people that you can be raw and unfiltered with, the people that you can actually say the truth to and not expect it to dismantle your entire friendship or relationship.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that I just don't have time for anybody who can't be honest with themselves at this point. Like, I'm in my goddess era, so...
You are a goddess.
I am a goddess.
You're my personal goddess.
I am your personal goddess. You don't listen to me, though. So, you know, the authenticity piece is really important because again, like I am at a different stage where time means more to me and my time is fucking valuable. Like I think I even have it, and I am doing online dating and I hate it, but I literally put in my thing, don't fuck with my time, because I will be mad and then I'm not gonna deal with you. I'll give grace if there's good reason, but if not, like, you know, don't fuck with people's time. Like, you know, being direct about what you want, being upfront, being honest, I think that those are all important things, and I think that it can take some time to get to a place where you feel comfortable doing that. I'm glad that younger generations are able to do it easier than I could. You know, my daughter is 14, and she just is so much more grounded in some ways than I was at that age and has more self-assurance. And I'm like so happy for her that she's going to be able to navigate with that, you know, while she's into becoming a teenager through adulthood. And I didn't have that, you know. It took me a long time to get to a point to feel confident enough to express my wants and needs. And that's a like just you were talking about, like, you having to suppress things. I think as women generationally, we had to suppress things as well. Because I know my parents didn't talk to me about sex. They didn't talk to me about anything. And then I didn't witness good relationships because, I don't know, my parents are passive aggressive. And so you don't get to see, like, the conflict healthy and those other things. So having to unlearn some of that and relearn is really important. At this time, I think, where are we on time? Do you have that 7 on the floor?
8:06.
8:06, perfect. Let's take 10 more minutes and then we can segue to the next piece. But I want to take maybe 1 or 2 questions from the audience if anybody has a question, because we never get to do that.
Never get, yeah.
Okay. I'll just speak really loudly. So, you were saying earlier, or one of you mentioned about being sort of having intimacy with yourself and through self-discovery, reflection, or whatever. If you're comfortable, can you tell us about a time where maybe you connected intimately with yourself in a way that, you know, was an epiphany or groundbreaking, or maybe, you know, helped you get to your goddess era, for example?
Sure. Part of it was, for me, like, going through training to become an intimacy coach. Like, there's just, so it's not the same as therapy, what I do, but I work with people to kind of help them navigate communication and to learn techniques. And part of that is having to apply that to yourself. So having to do all the exercises myself, having to put that focus on myself, which I don't think we do a lot as women naturally. And just having the ability and taking the time to connect with yourself. I think that women should take time to masturbate and learn how their bodies function and look at themselves in the mirror and just, like, really take the time to worship what they've been given. Like, we have such an ability to feel pleasure that people don't recognize. Mm-hmm. I also do stand-up comedy, and I made a joke recently about how, like, the pussy is not a bullseye, you know, so men don't get more points for just hitting in the center. Like, you have to, there's more out there, right? So, you know, taking the time to learn what you want, and then also learning how to ask for that. And it doesn't have to be through sexual things, but it could just be like, if someone gives you your coffee the wrong way, like, it's okay to ask people to redo things if you don't want it that way, you know, and politely, right? And I think that just taking the time to kind of stand in the things that you want is really important.
I think that's what makes the kink community
Oh no, my moment of, like, my, I don't know, I'm not necessarily a goddess, but I don't know if I'm a goddess, but I am pretty. I recently, like, you know, going through my divorce, it's one of those things where you're basically shedding a skin, right? Like, like, I'm a father, so I'm always going to be a father, right? But shedding my skin of husbandry, that responsibility. And after 16 years, you know, and you were talking about, like, intimacy, like romantic intimacy. For me, it was like I walked into the world like
basically listening to one radio station for years and then like, you know, touching other boom boxes. Like, this shit don't work the way like the other one did. You know what I mean? So it took me a while to unfigure that and figure out what I wanted again for myself. Like I have a type. Like physically I have a couple of types, right? But like figuring out like what I wanted for like what's gonna, you know, boil my water. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like straight up, like it took me a while to figure that out, and like it's hard to talk amongst black men. There's a certain way we don't talk to each other. Like I can't tell my other good friend like, hey Gerard, man, I'm having problems connecting sexually with a woman. Right? The first thing he's gonna say, like, first off, that eye contact is making me a little bit mad. So it was like basically it was like me, it was my therapist and myself every week talking about different things. And then I started dating again and, you know, trying different things with different people, and I realized like I tore the house down to the studs, and I'm still working on it. Literally, I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress because everybody's different. You know what I mean? So for me, I walk into it basically like, you know, kind of like a jazz jam session with good seasoned players like Herbie Hancock and Roy Hargrove. It's like that with me. Like I'm trying my best with new people, but like, you know, and also like it was making, like I was nervous. Like I'm 49 and single again, nervous with women, like prom night shit. So like it took me a while to like just rewire myself. And a lot of people told me that were single, like, hey man, it's different out here now. And it is. It's totally different. So like I'm still learning. I've hurt people along the way and gotten hurt too. So, you know, it's a work in progress, and humbly I'm doing it.
So, coming back to what you were saying about being able to ask for what you want and things like that. Like, I'm a mom. I was a wife. I live with my twin sister, who I love. She's my real life partner. But I had such obligations to everyone else, so my own needs got neglected. So when I first got introduced to the kink community, it was so nice to be able to be selfish, but I literally had I went to a party and I had women force me to sit down, and they're like, we're gonna rub your feet whether you like it or not, and I was like, this is amazing, but I felt so selfish, you know, that they were like catering to me, you know, but I was like, but I'm also doing what they're telling me to do. And it was nice to kind of give in and say, it's okay to be selfish sometimes. And being able to be who I am. And so a part of that is I'm an exhibitionist. And when I was young, I was criticized for, you know, being slutty or conceited or, you know, for being confident about my body or what have you. So I felt like I needed to be modest. So I think I really love that I've been able to expand from the kink community, but also bring like exhibitionism and sexiness to other spaces for people who are not necessarily in the kink world, but still want to feel sexy and feel good about themselves, have body positivity and all of that, because that's a part of selfishness, you know, but it's self-care. So I think we have to reframe selfish for self-care. Mm-hmm. So everybody likes to feel good about themselves, and, you know, there's such intimacy in that. Being able to look in the mirror and feel good about what you see is its own intimate experience that a lot of people struggle with for an incredible amount of reasons. But I will give Pittsburgh a shout out, because as I've traveled, I was explaining to different people that Pittsburgh is very body positive. And I'm very, very thankful for that, especially because like I hire a lot of burlesque performers. I photograph all sorts of sex workers, burlesque performers, models, all of that. But in other places, there's, these high standards, or there are people that they're like, well, I aged out of modeling because people don't find me sexy anymore, or I'm too big, or, but Pittsburgh is so celebratory of different body types. And I'm so super happy with our community for being that way. So yay to Pittsburgh. Yeah. And to body positivity. And I am excited for the next portion where we talk about erotic storytelling, but also seeing everybody in what they feel sexy and comfortable in. And we celebrate all of you.
Woo. We'll take one more question. Anyone have a burning question? Yes.
I'm curious what ways you lean into trying to incorporate more like platonic intimacy in your life with like your family, your friends, strangers.
Sure. I spend a lot of time with my kids. I have a 14-year-old that I share custody of, so I'm with her a week at a time. I have an 18-year-old that still lives with me and probably will for a few more years, and I'm okay with that. And then I have a 24-year-old, and my kids are my best friends in some ways. We drive each other crazy, but my son, when I've been gone a week, and he's been calling me 3 times a day, and I'm always busy, and he's like, "Bruh, but I need to talk to you," and I'm like, "Don't call me bruh, I'm your mom." But this dude and I have known each other a really long time. I have several other people in Pittsburgh that I've been friends with for a long time that are men. So I try to.
You cheat.
What's that? No, I'm not cheating on you. Stop it. I think for me, I really have put more emphasis on platonic relationships at this age. Like I said, I was just at my grad school. Some of the closest people that I've gotten to know, I graduated from there in 2020, and I go back, and a ton of them live in Louisville, and so getting to see them and keep up with them on social media, but then also making sure to take the time and effort. And one of my friends actually thanked me for that. She was like, "I'm so glad that every time you come to town, you actually reach out, because I don't always know what's happening, or that this is going on, even though I live here." So I think you have to make the effort with it too, though. I think you have to center that kind of platonic relationships. But honestly, sometimes I get more fulfillment out of having really healthy platonic relationships. You can have sex with anyone, honestly, but you can't have the kind of vulnerability and trust that we have, without developing that and nurturing it, and really taking the time to just be open and trusting and honest. And I don't know. You want to say something about that?
No, I mean.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Well, no, because she's Holly's my she's my Jiminy Cricket to my Pinocchio. She's like, "Don't do it, Pinocchio." I'm like, but I want to make an ass of myself. I want to drink that beer, and I want to have that cigar, and I want to be in that tent. No, it's developing what I've tried to do since I moved back here is develop good friendships and reset something I had in the past, like Holly and I talk every day.
Almost.
Pretty much every day we talk, and trying to establish good, healthy choices in friends. I had, not to overshare, but I had a tumultuous summer with friends, and I realized in certain moments, you're going to filter people out, right? And it's like cream, the good shit's gonna rise to the top. So I basically went through a whole friend group and just blew things up. And you were right there.
I was right there.
She was literally standing right there when everything happened. So, no, I really worked on developing good friendships, reestablishing friendships. I live 2 blocks from my other best friend. He literally lives around the corner from me. I can throw a rock in his house. So that's good for me, but just really trying to be more honest when you develop these relationships with people, being them platonic or not. Every woman that I meet, I don't necessarily try to be romantically involved in. I did make the mistake and was platonically involved with a woman once, and it kind of slowly turned into a romantic thing. Never date your neighbor. So, yeah, so, you know, again, just as an older man, try to make good decisions out of your kids. Just make good decisions. You know what I mean? Like, that's, and I don't listen to that sometimes, but what I am trying to do is be a better person, better lover, better friend, better father, just better. And even when you try, it's okay to fall short. You're gonna fuck up, right? You're gonna fuck up. You're gonna fuck up friendship, you're gonna fuck up something. But like, I acknowledge my fuck ups eventually, because like, your fuck up is gonna come back to haunt you. It's like cheap luggage. You just got that shit. You're just gonna keep it. Just gonna be in the back of your closet. So yeah, that's that.
So the original question was about how do you develop platonic intimacy?
Yeah, like leaning into it. Like if there's someone that you really want to go closer with, but you're not sure.
So I think that I have a lot of platonic intimacy just in the form of doing my best to make people feel seen, especially when they are uncomfortable with something, or they're, you know, like Ernest saying, well, if I'm oversharing, you know, or you said this might be oversharing, but then, you know, my response would be absolutely not. Tell me all the things, because people express hesitancy in so many different ways because most other people are not giving them that space to, you know, really express themselves or be themselves. So I really try to lean into that, and everybody has different needs, you know, so if somebody needs to talk about, well, in my job, I'm a boudoir photographer, so I feel like I am in people's intimate spaces all the time. And I really try to do everything I can to make people feel comfortable enough to be themselves and be vulnerable enough to be photographed, which is so much harder than people think it is, like incredibly hard. But I feel like my entire life has put me in positions where I am regularly in people's intimate spaces that they don't allow other people in. So like the Intimacy Project, I am essentially just going on people's dates with them and recording it, which is great. And before that, for 14 years, I was a newborn photographer, and I loved that job, but I was working in the hospitals on labor and delivery, and that is such an incredibly intimate space to be in women's delivery rooms, you know, touching their fresh little babes, such an intimate space. And so I just feel like I live for that. I live for making people feel seen, making people feel comfortable, and creating spaces that people feel good in, which is how I created this. So, yeah.
There's definitely something to the birth world. I used to be a lactation consultant, and there's definitely an intimacy there where you're seeing people at probably their most vulnerable moments, because that veil, when after women give birth, it's dropped, and they're just in a different place than where and they've completely changed as a person. It's such a wild thing to watch. But yeah, kudos to you. That's awesome. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank my co-host Ernest for joining me, even though he was nervous. He was nervous about. I want to give it up for Dawn for being my guest. Shout out to all the performers tonight that are coming up next. Indeed, who's going to be our DJ, and I'm going to end with our tagline: if you find yourself in darkness, we hope it's in the shadow of love.
Yeah.